But it's time for you to talk. I'm going to say how you doing tonight.
All right, sounds
And
good.
we're live. Well, that happened quickly. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. My name is James. I'm going to be your podcaster for this evening. The Let's Talk Fishing podcast is brought to you by Crusher Lures, Grant Rods, Shangaloo Outdoors, and the American Bass Club. With me tonight, I have Larry Bryant of Bryant's Custom Jigs. I love working with these companies from Louisiana. I know the owners. Larry Bryant has a very, very special company that makes custom jigs. And rather than me sitting here and telling you about it, I'd like Larry to tell you himself. So how are you doing tonight, Larry?
Good, Jay. How are you, man? I appreciate you having us on.
Well,
I can't
told you,
fuss. We got gorgeous weather and it's springtime fishing.
Oh yeah. I did not want to be at work today. In fact, the guy I was working with and I were both discussing that all day long, Jeez. What a great day to fish, man. The sun's not 105 degrees. It's cloudy. And the bass would be up shallow. Wow.
Yeah. All right. Where give me some information, Jay. Where are most of your listeners from?
Oh geez. They're actually from all over, but I'm gonna say a lot of them right now, of course, are in Tennessee.
Okay.
Everybody's there, there's the Bassmaster Classic's gonna be there.
Yes.
The MLF's there. And a lot of people are there for the Bassmaster Expo.
Right. Well, a little bit of background from BCJ. I call it BCJ just because it's easier than saying Bryant's Custom Jigs.
Yes.
We started our business in 2015.
Okay.
And we basically started because of I fished for champion boats and tournament fished for 14 years until my kids got a little bit older and I got wrapped up in them in high school and college sports. And I quit fishing. But when my son got through playing collegiate golf, he really got into bass fishing.
Yes.
We always fished, but he really had a competitive edge still coming out of college. And he got into bass fishing. So we basically, we made jigs for years before that time. But to be honest with you, they're nowhere close to where we are now,
Sure.
But when he got back into competitive bass fishing, he fishes all local stuff, of course, in Louisiana, Texas. He fishes Bass Champs. He fishes Texas Team Trail.
There's a good one. Wow.
Yeah. So
that's competitive, man. Jeez.
Yeah. He's fishing against some really good guys.
Yes, some sticks out there.
Yeah. So we basically started our business to have our hand in the pot, I would like to say, by helping him with some products.
Yes.
And once the word got out around Central Louisiana that we were making products, and we actually had a store that's in the Central Louisiana area say, look, let's put some of your products in it. Let's see how it goes. So in 2016, we decided to go that way. Now we're at 20 stores, which we have grown a good bit in that area, but the majority of our business is from people like you, recreational fishermen, to touring pros saying, I want something custom.
Yes.
Okay. So I want a black and blue jig with 3 strands of pink in the front. And if that's his mental color, that's what he fishes the best, then that's where BCJ actually had its birth. We started out doing a flipping jig.
Yes.
And then we decided we were going to, if we're going to do this, we're going to have our own head design. So basically what we did was say, okay, what are the good things about this jig, this jig, this jig, and what are the negatives about this jig, and this jig? Because all jigs have their, separate entities. So
sure.
We basically just decided we're going to design our own head in a flipping jig. So we did. Got with a designer in New Jersey, sent him some ideas. He cut our first mold, actually sent us a 3D graphic design of our jig. And after he did the graphic design of it, then we said, okay, these are the changes we wanted. He made the changes, shipped the mold here. We fished it for 6 months, liked it, wanted one change. Example being a wire keeper was too short. So we went back to the drawing board and he designed a longer wire keeper to fit what we wanted. So since 2016, now we've designed a flipping jig, a football jig, a swim jig, a Arky head, which has been around for 60 plus years. Okay.
Yes.
But we wanted our BCJ Arky head. We wanted the same head, but we wanted a different lead keeper, a different, not a lead keeper, but a wire keeper. We wanted to be able to put a Mustad 3785 hook in it, a Trocar 800 series hook in it. So everything's designed for what we think BCJ is about, which is a quality USA product. And actually, we have a new jig coming out. It will be cut on Monday, March the 27th.
There you go.
Monday, which is going to be our flipping jig now as a stand-up model.
Ooh.
And so now we're actually designing a grass jig for grass and structure. So every year we're adding another product. And then we've also been real fortunate to work with a couple companies. One of them is Boyd Duckett.
Sure.
We've actually had some designing work involvement with him. In fact, he's actually tested 2 of our products that we still make. Had one of our products at Tackle Warehouse for 3 years. So from our first flipping jig, in 2015, yeah, we've grown a pretty good bit, but we're still a custom company.
Well, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Shoot, man.
Okay. Throughout the South, the extreme South, like where I live, we have cypress trees.
Yeah.
One of my favorite places to jig is through the cypress knees.
Right.
Man, I'll cast out there and bounce it right off of a. Actually, if I make a perfect cast, it lands, perfectly right next to the tree.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I just want to just drag it and just barely pull it through those knees, and that's where I've caught most of my bass down here in the Atchafalaya Spillway.
Uh-huh.
And for those of you who don't know, the Atchafalaya Spillway is just the nation's biggest swamp.
Right. Basically so. Well, most of our waters, of course, now, with live scope and everything's changing as far as even, in canals in the Atchafalaya Basin that are 6 feet. So
yes,
everything used to be really shallow, but now, there's a need for, football jigs and stuff like that. But basically, if you kind of call me, let's say you were our customer and you called us, the first thing we would do is, number one is I want to know where you fish.
yes.
Okay. Number 2 is I want to know some fishing background about you. And this is the reason why. We're not going to send you a stock jig from BCJ.
Sure.
Unless you buy a stock jig from a store that you are around where you can purchase a stock jig. But what we're going to do with you as a customer is I'm going to get a background from you. I'm going to know I'm going to get really detailed. I'm going to know what type of line, whether you throw fluorocarbon, monofilament, braid, because that's going to determine what kind of hook I think will fit your best jig. All right. I'm going to know whether you are a power fisherman, extremely fast, or if you're a slow fisherman. Okay. That's going to give me some ideas of weights. In other words, if you're a power fisherman, then I may increase your weight on a jig to actually slow you down where you don't do it mentally. Okay.
Sure.
So the bottom line is we're going to design a product that fits you. And that can go from hook style, weight, literally gap on your weed guard. Example being, you fish really fast. So I may take your weed guard and not put it at 32 degrees, but I may put it at 36 degrees. That way you don't have as far to move the hook through a weed guard gap.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
So we're going to break down where it's really precise to fit you. All right. So But we do that for all our products. You know, when we design, I have no background in a spinnerbait, none.
Okay.
Because I never fished them. But the thing you got to understand about BCJ and the jig business is, according to research that was done last year, or actually 2 years ago after ICAST, which we got to go 3 years ago and represent a company called Trophy Technologies.
Okay.
The thing that they did some research, and they told me at the end of that ICAST, from just their surveys and people that came through ICAST, only 6% of people efficiently fish a flipping jig or a swim jig.
Wow.
Okay, so that tells me if I'm trying to own a company that does nothing produce but flipping jigs, then I can't reach at best but 6% of the market.
No.
So BCJ can't make a living in that because we don't mass produce. So that tells me I've got to have a spinnerbait. I've got to have a shaky head. I got to have a swim jig. I've got to have a buzz bait where I can broaden my base to where a small company like BCJ can make a living at it. All right, because we don't mass produce. You know, we don't send our product to a company, Cast Industries, and have our jigs made. We actually make our heads.
So let me make sure I understand what you're saying. So when somebody calls you and they say, and they go through a consultation with you about their fishing style, you're going to design a jig specifically for them. Then you're going to make that jig.
That is correct.
So this could take a week or two, couldn't it?
Yes.
Because
right now, our turnaround time this time of year is somewhere around 2 weeks. Okay, which is not horrible, but it's not. You call me and get a jig. I have guys come in here and pick up jigs all the time in my shop that have bought here forever. And they'll come in and say, "Look, I need 6 mean green, which is a color that's real popular here." I can't tell them that because, all right, let's say I made 1,500 jigs last month. All 1,500 were sold. We do not make a product, not one, that is for sale in our shop. If you are a retail setting and you order $1,000 worth of our flipping jigs, none of those are made until you make your order. All right. So all of your orders, if you're going to personally send me an order tonight through an email or go to our website, you go to our website, you can buy stock colors that are on our website. They're still not made. Okay. So everything that we do is going to be designed to what you want.
That in today's day and age, man, that's awesome.
Well, yeah, it's a great tool to have, but it's also, people have to understand it. I just can't go in and buy something.
Sure.
And people are real accustomed to having instant gratification. Okay.
Well,
I'll leave it like that. But BCJ is not that, we're not that store.
We have a question from the audience.
Okay.
Eric. It's Cajun Rob, who's a great friend of mine.
Okay.
Cajun Rob is from Southern Kentucky, mostly fishes Tennessee.
Okay.
And he says, does he make any ball-headed finesse jigs by chance?
Yes. I'll give you a quick rundown. We do flipping jigs. We do football jigs. We do swim jigs. We do ball head jigs. We can take our football jigs. Our most of our skirt counts are 60. Okay, that's 60, the number of strands. Okay, but we can make our football jigs, our tournament edition flipping jigs. Yes, we do have our own ball jig design. There's a lot of guys that love fishing boat docks. They want an erratic fall and not a straight fall. That's where a ball jig comes into play. Okay.
2 thumbs up for that one.
We have a ball jig. It's designed a little bit different. I will say this. Most ball jigs has an eye that sits sideways.
Yes. Okay.
Our ball jig eye sits in line with our head, just like our flipping jig. And here's why. When you pitch a ball jig up underneath a dock, most of them have some kind of supports that lay parallel with the water line. Okay.
Yes.
When you pull a ball jig over there and it has a sideways hook, it's got to go either right or left to get over that piece of wood. Okay. If you have a sideways hook, 9 times out of 10, it's going to turn to the side and it's going to get hung up. So our ball jig is designed to come into contact with a piece of wood, like a beam or something, where it actually comes straight over and falls. But a ball jig is a great, reaction bite jig because it doesn't fall straight down. It falls from right to left.
Wow.
But to answer his question, yes. I have a ton of clients that call and say, I want a ball jig. Most guys that want a ball jig want a small finesse cut jig, okay? Because they want a small profile.
Yes.
All right. So, yes, we do have a ball jig to answer his question. We can cut it any skirt length he wants. We can cut it taper cut, and we can get into taper cuts in a second on jigs. But most guys want a small profile ball jig because they want it to fall erratic and catch water. All right. So, yes, I hope that answers his question.
It did. He just said, I'm sold.
Well, and
hey guys, if you want more information, if you want to know how to get a hold of this guy, down at the crawler at the bottom of the screen, you can see it says Bryant'sCustomJigs.com.
yeah, you can get it. You can send me an email on our website. On our website, we have a website, Bryant's Custom Jigs. We have an Instagram page that we don't do as much as we need to, just because I'm in this shop most of the time and I'm not a real big technology person. Okay, to be honest with you, my time I spend in the shop.
Yeah, unless you're talking jig technology. I mean,
yeah. So he can send me an email. He can call my cell phone. It's on our webpage. Okay, my cell phone goes directly to me. You can send me a message. I have a ton of guys that have bought jigs, but they don't want to go through our website because they want custom colors. So
yes.
they will actually send me a message. Here's what I want. Okay. In that case, what we do is we make your order. I will tell you a projected date of when we're going to make your order. I'm not going to be but a couple days off, but I may say, look, it may be 7 days before I get back in touch with you. All right, maybe 2 days, whatever the length is. And what we'll do is we'll make your product. We'll send you actually, if you're a new customer, I actually keep a card on all customers that send us individual messages. And I fill that card out because let's say you want black, brown, and amber with 4 strands of amber in it. Then I'm going to make that note on my card. So when you send me a message and you say, I want black, brown, and amber, I know instead of a quarter of a band of skirt, I want 4 strands. So we actually keep a card on you. That way I know what your color is when you reorder. But we're going to, we need to get a background on people before. The bottom line is this, Jay. If we make you a jig and it doesn't work, number one is we make no magic here.
Yeah.
All right. We
There
make
is no
quality.
magic.
Yeah, we make a quality U.S. product that will do its job. And then after you get that product, the bottom line is if you don't catch fish on it, I have one chance to make you a customer. And if I mess that chance up, then you're done with BCJ. All right. So we're going to try to make the best product that fits you. Example being, let's say you call and you say, okay, I want some flipping jigs in 1/2 ounce. I say, okay. And I don't get any background from you, but you're throwing a 7-foot, 8-inch rod. Your gear ratio is cranked all the way down. You're throwing 60-pound braid. You have no give in your drag. You're making pitches literally 8 feet away from your boat with what I consider heavy power equipment. Okay. Let's say you're 25 years old. You have reflexes like a cat. You have no slack line. You set the hook very efficiently. And the first 3 fish that you catch with a BCJ jig jumps 3 times and throws your jig all 3 times.
Well,
okay. You're going to blame me for that jig not doing what it's supposed to do. But if I would have made that jig with a mustad hook instead of a trocar, then you would have caught 2 out of those 3 fish under that scenario, because that trocar is not going to rip a gap in the side of his head, and he jumped off. So if I know what your background is, and I build a jig and you catch all 3 of those fish, then you know you're going to call me back and you're going to order more jigs. So the bottom line is, the better jig I make that fits you, then I'm going to have a repeat customer.
Well, that's why I quit fishing jigs in Illinois back in the early 2000s, because I just couldn't keep them pinned.
Right.
Everything's coming unbuttoned, and I didn't have Larry to call and say, "What am I doing wrong, man?"
Yeah, it's hey, and we're in a $70,000 truck now. We're in a $100,000 boat. We're buying $35 to $70 swim baits.
Yes.
We're paying $6 for a custom jig instead of $1.99 when I was fishing. So people are real impatient because they got a lot of money and they're having to work extremely hard to get that 3 hours of recreational time, or you're a tournament level fisherman and my product's not working. So we try to fit our product to fit you.
I get it, man. I get that.
Yeah.
So you can pretty much make just about any color there is, can't you?
Yes, we actually have. We try to keep in stock somewhere around 350 to 400 colors of silicone. Okay, and that's 2 different. I order from 2 different companies. One of them is Living Rubber. Of course, all silicone skirts come from China. They're all made in China. We deal with what we deal with. Okay.
Sure.
But we carry 350 to 400 colors of silicone. We carry Living Rubber in flat and round. We carry their multicolor rubber, which is barcodes, silver and gold or black and blue or whatever. We carry their flat cover colors. We carry a product called BioFlex, which is a silicone-based skirt product. It breathes like rubber and moves like living rubber, but it does not clump together like rubber in humidity and heat. Okay, so let's say you want a spinnerbait that looks like an old H&H spinnerbait that moves with living rubber. Then we can get you a spinnerbait that moves in that, but not made of rubber, which will hold up. Okay.
Okay.
Another thing that we can guarantee you from BCJ is we never put a rubber collar on anything, period. We make spinnerbaits. We copper wrap it with 16 gauge copper wire. We make a flipping jig. We do not wrap anything. In fact, I will show you a picture of a finesse cut ball jig.
Okay? Look at that thing, man.
I don't know if you can see. All right, can you see that 16 gauge copper wire?
Put it a little bit closer. Right. I know it's very difficult to deal with that camera. I can see it now.
All right. Can you see this?
Yes.
That's 16 gauge copper wire. That's our rubber skirts right there. Okay. We do not make rubber colored collars on our jigs because number one is they don't last. Okay. Humidity eats them up, and so does heat. So
yeah, because the heat down here.
Yeah. 6 weeks to 3 months, your skirt's going to fall off. All right. So everything we do, we wrap with copper wire. One negative about that is you can't change your skirt without tearing mine up.
Well,
okay. It is what it is.
It is what it is, man. If you want quality, that's one of the things you got to do.
That's exactly right.
Now, what size, what weights do you make for your jigs?
All right. We started out when we first had our first mold cut. We had 3/8, we had 1/2, and we had 11/16.
Okay.
Our next mold that we had made 13 months after that, 13 or 14 months ago, was 5/16 and 7/16. This is why we had another mold cut. If you're 50 years or older and you fished a jig, you either fished a 5/16 or a 7/16 in Louisiana and Texas, because that's the only jigs that were made. Okay, so if you've got an older clientele, they're going to call and say, hey, man, I want a 5/16 ounce jig, not a 3/8. Now, there's not a whole big difference between the two, but it is mentally. Okay.
Yes.
So we actually had 2 molds cut, same head design, but 2 molds for my older clientele.
Yeah.
And then I had to have 3/8 and a half for the young guys because that's the only thing they've ever seen. All right. But if I have a client come in here and say, okay, I can tell right off the bat whether he's an old jig fisherman or not, he's going to say, look, Mr. Larry, I want a black neon jig. I want it in a 5/16, and then I want a 11/16. And the first thing I'm going to say is, I've got a true jig fisherman, and here's why. That's an old school color, okay? Black, brown, and amber is an old school jig color that jig fishermen that fished in the 70s and 80s. There's no company that makes a black, brown, and amber like was made around the Toledo Bend and Rayburn area. We actually have to have our amber made to match that old color. But if I have a jig fisherman come in here, I'll say, what size jigs do you want? He says, I want a 5/16 and then I want 11/16. That's going to tell me that that guy is a really jig fisherman because number one is he wants the slowest falling jig he can get. Okay. So I envision him like I used to do. I used to go down a bank and fish a bank, make a pass with a 5/16. Okay. That's a slow falling bite. That is what I consider a eating bite from a fish. Okay. Now, if that bank is extremely popular, which it always holds fish, which
Oh, guys, we just lost Larry Bryant. We already had 26. Oh, there he is. Looks like he's coming back.
Yeah, I'm not going to make a pass with that 5/16 the second time. I'm going to make it with a 3/4 ounce because I don't want a slow fall bite because they've seen that 8 times today. So I want those fish to make an instant decision to eat that bait, and an 11/16 is going to make them do it that much quicker. All right. So depending on your level of fishing ability and knowledge, it's going to tell me a lot what you need to throw. You know.
Yes.
So the bottom line is we're going to get really precise on your products. You know, and we've branched out. Like we can talk jigs all day, but I can give you an example. Okay, I can take this same skirt count, which is a 60 count skirt, okay, which is extremely full. We send all of our customers 60 count skirts because if I send this jig to you in Illinois, you can't add any silicone there. All right, but you can cut if it's too much.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to send you a product that's got as much hair as you'll ever need on there, and then you can adapt it to what you need. Now, if you're a repeat customer, you may say, look, I want a 42 count skirt. Well, then I'm going to make yours out of 42 instead of 60. All right. So, but all stock jigs, unless you tell me, are going to have a 60 count skirt because I can take this 60. Let's see how I can give you this example. Okay. I can take this 60 count skirt and you can tell that it's extremely full. Okay. But I can take, and most jigs are cut in a flat line across the bottom of your skirt. Okay. With a pair of scissors. I can take this skirt and cut it diagonally in the bottom of that skirt and make this jig get twice as big in diameter. Same count of rubber, same count of silicone, but by actually, let me see if I can show you this. By actually taking the skirt and diagonally cutting it, okay, which makes it go from long to short. And I'm going to do it in the middle of the jig, long to short. And in the beginning of the jig, the front of the jig, I'm going to do the same thing. What that does is when your jig sits on the bottom of the lake, if all your hairs are the same length, then the middle hairs hold down the bottom hairs. The top hairs hold down the middle hairs. Silicone does not move without movement. So by making them long to short, then I've got room for that thing to catch water current and move. So I can adapt your jig to make a bigger profile. Let's say you're throwing a jig on pre-spawn fish. They're feeding up because in 3 weeks they're going to go lay eggs, and they know they're not going to eat for 7 days. So they're going to feed up real heavy. So what do they want? They want something that's going to give them a bunch of protein at one time. So they want a big, gnarly crawfish instead of 6 little bitty threadfin shad. Okay? So before the spawn, I want a really bulky skirt. After the spawn, I want a really bulky skirt. After that, after they fed up, they don't want a bulk. There's no fish in Louisiana in the summertime that want a full cut skirt. If you're going to fish a full cut skirt in the summertime, you're going to probably cut your bites down 30%. And here's why. Let's see how I can explain it to your customers. All right. I'm a duck hunter. Okay. I go duck hunting. It's 18 degrees. I come home. I want something. I want a big bowl of chili with some bread or crackers. I want to get full and get my body temperature up.
Yes.
Okay. A fish is no different. If I'm cutting my grass in Louisiana in August, once the water temperature gets 80 degrees, I don't want to eat bulk because my body cannot digest it. So why am I going to try to feed a fish a full cut jig in the heat of the summer? It doesn't work. Okay. So after the feed has been taken on after the post spawn, then I want to finesse cut my jigs. Okay. So I want to feed them what you hear people say all the time. Man, my fish quit eating a jig and they started eating small creature bait plastics. No, they didn't. They'll still eat a jig if it's a small profile. You were just trying to feed them something that their body didn't want to digest. Okay. Fish never stop eating crawfish. If they see a crawfish, they're going to eat it. Okay. So they didn't quit eating crawfish. They just didn't want to eat one full like that. So that's what BCJ does. All right. We're going to design a jig or a product to fit your time of the year, your water temperature, your water color. It's not that we know what colors are best. And here's why. Because, man, I don't think people put enough backbone into the mental part of fishing. Fishing is about 75 to 80% mental.
It is. Yes.
If you don't believe in what you're throwing, in other words, if you call me and you say, okay, I'm going to Chaffalot Basin this weekend, and I say, man, I've got 2 customers that caught them last weekend on a color called mean green. Okay, you don't know mean green from Adam. Okay, but let's say that's one of the best colors for a guy down there that fish all for a living. They know that color works. I know that color works, not because I know anything about the Chaffalot Basin, but I sell this guy 200 jigs a year, and he orders all of them in mean green. Okay, so I've got an idea from my customers what they say, but here's what I'm getting to. Let's say I sell you a mean green jig. You go down there in the first 30 minutes, you don't get bit. What are you going to do? You're going to cut that jig off, going to have a piece of line tied to it about that long, and it's going to be laying in the bottom of your boat on the floor. Okay, and then what you're going to do, if you still want to catch them on a jig, you're going to pick up a black, blue, and purple, which is your mental color. And you're going to fish that jig until you get bit because you believe in that color. All right. So bottom line is, if you call me and say, all right, this is the colors I want, then I know that you're going to fish that mentally stronger. You're going to make better cast with it. You're going to put it in thicker areas. You're going to fish it longer. You're going to fish it more efficient. And you're going to get bit on. Where that black, brown, and amber jig you didn't get bit on is in the bottom of your boat. So BCJ relies on your mental colors to where we make products, with the best product that we can as far as raw materials. That kind of answer a couple of questions?
Oh, yes. Well, Larry, we're getting up to about 35 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the customers before we close?
Well, let me say this, Jay. BCJ
Sure.
started out as a jig company. Okay. We
Yeah.
now have products that we had to do because of necessity. Like we have designed a spinnerbait head. Okay.
Nice.
All right. Couple things. We put the best hook available in there. We put a wire keeper on it. Okay. We turn our own wire, so I can throw 30 gauge wire in there to 35 gauge wire. We can make it, whatever length you want. We put quick. Here's just a little quick thing on our spinnerbaits. We put a quick change clevis on it. So on the water, I don't know if you can see this. On the water, I can change that. That blade disappears. That's the top blade. Within 10 seconds, without any tools, and I've got to take it down to do that, but I can change and put another blade on. So our pro staff guys has designed products that fit something that you need. Okay.
Nice.
We designed a buzz bait in 2016. This is the product that Boyd Duckett tested. It's a tungsten weight transfer buzz bait. I can take a 1/4 ounce TWT buzz, which is the name of this buzz bait, and I will outcast any 1/2 ounce buzz bait that you have because of that tungsten weight transfer during your cast. Okay. It has a free swinging hook. It's made for plastic that goes on there. A horny toad, some kind of
Horny
a swim
toad,
bait.
yeah.
So, yes, we are a jig business, but we probably sell, I'm going to say 30% jigs and 70% other products.
Wow.
We make a shaky head that goes from a 1/4 ounce to 1 1/4 ounce shaky head. Now you're probably going to tell me, why do I need a shaky head that's 1 1/4 ounce? Okay.
Why not?
Well, there's pro guys that fish the Kentucky River system, that fish current lakes. They want a shaky head that will hold a 14-inch worm.
Also, there's guys out in California, like Clear Lake. They're catching bass in 70 feet of water on the bottom.
Right. So
And
what I'm telling you about those
something like
things
this
is,
it would take a minute and a half to get it down.
yeah. So, yeah, and I joke about this all the time. Yeah, we're a bait company, but we're also a fabrication company. We fabricate stuff to where it fits you. Okay. And that doesn't matter about weed guard. I mean, I could talk breaking down jigs for another 30 minutes,
Of course you
whether
could.
it's cutting weed guards or whatever.
I'll give you a chance, Steve.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can discuss further, but overall, BCJ is a company that we try to design a product for you, not a store. Okay.
I'll give. Is there any shout outs you'd like to do? Any thank yous to anybody or?
Yeah. First of all, thanks to you, man, for having us on. We love talking fishing. That's
absolutely
the only reason that I'm in the business. Because as far as a company that does no mass production, you're not going to make a living doing it. Okay. You do it because you love the sport, and you like taking high school kids and teaching them something. Adults are a little bit different. It's hard to train an adult, but it's real easy to train a high school kid. But Jay,
Yeah.
we do appreciate you having us on there. If any of your customers have any questions, they're welcome to send me an email. They're welcome to send me a message on my phone. Call me personally. I love talking fishing with anybody.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome, Larry. And I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to our viewers here on the Let's Talk Fishing podcast.
All right, man. Well, you have a great day, and I appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you. I'm going to end the podcast now. Please stick around. I can talk to you for 2 minutes afterwards.
All right, man.
And, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. Again, my name is Jay Angel. I was a podcaster, along with Larry from Larry's Custom Jigs. Tell you about a fantastic product. With that, I'm going to end the podcast. It's Thursday night, guys. Make your plans. get out there on the water this weekend. You know, you only get to do this once.